All right, guys, during the NFL season, we picked up just under 2,000 subscribers at 1,734. We had a big month of January. Shout out to all of you, 833 new subscribers. So, big goal this month. We're trying to get our first 1,000 subscriber month in channel history. Essentially, if we reach 9,000 total subs on the channel this month, we will accomplish that. So, if you want the latest Patriots news, rumors, draft, and free agency coverage, hit that sub button and join this ride. It's going to be a fun offseason. I'm Harrison Graham from Chat Sports, and oh boy, the rumors are kicking it up into another gear here. Could New England go offensive tackle at number 3? That would certainly be a curveball, but this is what's been thrown out there by Jeff Howe. He says, quote, if it's Eliot Wolf running the show, expect the Patriots to give a long, hard look at drafting a left tackle with the number 3 pick. Now, couple things here, Rolly. Number one, we don't know who's running the show completely, and Eliot Wolf. And number two, this would certainly be out of left field if you are to take how draft evaluators view this draft. Like, the top of this draft is very much quarterback, wide receiver. Now, there are 2 good offensive tackles in Joe Alt and Olu Fashanu and a few other guys emerging, but I don't think you'll see, very often at least, mock drafts with offensive tackles going in the top 3 of this NFL draft.
Yeah, no, I do agree with that. And, this is the key, as I kind of headline this little note I wanted to make, is who is making the decisions? Because Howe kind of mentioned, if it's Eliot Wolf, well, the 3-headed monster that is kind of running the New England Patriots as of right now is there's no clear-cut GM or president of operations or anything like that. It's Jerod Mayo, who's the head coach, director of player personnel of Matt Groh, and the director of scouting, which is Eliot Wolf. But if you've been paying attention to some of the news popping up on Twitter, it feels like Eliot Wolf has kind of been the main guy here because he's been working with Jerod Mayo on a lot of these coaching hires, these interviews, and Eliot Wolf's fingerprints are all over these hires when you look at some of the coaches being brought in. Well, a lot of them have connections with Wolf in the past in his days with Green Bay and former jobs that he held. Matt Groh was in Mobile. Is it Mobile? Mobile, right?
Tomato.
Yeah, same thing. For the Senior Bowl doing some scouting, but Eliot Wolf has been back making decisions with Jerod Mayo on the coaching staff. So if Howe's reporting is correct, it feels like Wolf does have maybe the most influence here, which means this could be a real situation and possibility for New England.
Well, here's what I'll say. A couple things. One, I don't like that it's unclear about who's in charge. I'm not a fan of that. This isn't high school football where you have to keep secrets about everything. Hey, here's our GM. He's running the show. Obviously, Jerod Mayo, Matt Groh, and other scouts will have influence. Boom. It's that easy. So I'm not a fan of that. Number two, I really don't mind the thought of wanting to go offensive tackle in the first round. If you don't love Jaden Daniels and you think he's going to be the quarterback at 3, or maybe you don't love Drake May, whatever the case may be, I'm fine with that. I would just trade the pick, though, and we can get to that here in a second, but we want to hear from you guys first. Do you trust the decision-making of the Patriots right now, the guys in charge, which, again, we don't know who's ultimately in charge? Type T for trust or D for don't. I would put myself in the W category, which is we got to wait and see. There's a lot of unknown at this point in time. So T for trust, D for don't. Let us know what you guys think. Now, if they are going to go offensive tackle, Rolly, Joe Alt and Olu Fashanu have long been the top 2 guys, at least on paper. Now, Alt had a huge year. Fashanu had a good year, but his tape was a little bit flawed, so most scouts have Alt ahead of him at this point in time. You've got the Fuaga kid out of Oregon State emerging as well. It would be interesting if they went tackle, and I really do like Joe Alt, and I love Olu's upside. I still don't feel like either of these guys, though, is someone I would take number 3 overall, even though it is a massive need for this Patriots football team.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about the need for offensive tackle on past shows. Joe Alt would firmly replace either Trent Brown or Michael Wenu, probably lean towards replacing Trent Brown at left tackle, as all 3 of those guys you just saw on screen are left tackles in college. Wenu has experience at right tackle. You assume that Trent Brown is not going to be returning in free agency, so you re-sign Wenu, slot him in at right tackle, keep Sidney Sow at right guard, David Andrews at center, Cole Strange at left guard, and then maybe you do draft a left tackle, whether it be at pick 3, a trade back scenario, or in the second round, which would probably be my pick, which we'll dive more into that line of thinking in just a bit. But just keeping it on the prospects here, Joe Alt is a stud. I was an Olu Fashanu guy about probably in October, but I've kind of flipped my tune to Alt being the number 1 guy at that left tackle spot in this class. The guy is just a behemoth of a man, and he can just do everything. He'll be someone who could be a franchise left tackle. Got to be honest, I've said this about a couple guys of like can't miss prospects. It feels like Alt is actually turning himself into a can't miss prospect.
Yeah, it's tough to evaluate these offensive linemen coming out of college football these days, but he's pretty rock solid, man. Like I know that Dane Brugler tweeted this out like a month ago or something, that his tape this year is some of the best he's seen in the last 5 years evaluating offensive linemen. I think Olu's traits are maybe a tick more intriguing than Alt's, but Alt's tape, especially this year, I think surpassed Olu, who is still really good. Like, didn't give up a sack. The passing grade is really good. He's a little grabby at times, Roy. Like, I think the technique still needs some cleaning up, which is probably where Alt has passed him. I think he's a cleaner prospect right now, but I still think the upside with Olu is massive. So I like these guys, and Fuaga has emerged, but we can keep it here with Olu. But this is a good offensive tackle class. So if you want to go tackle, this is a good draft to do it. I just think that you could get someone, and I'm not trying to go scatterbrain here, but you could get someone to move up to 3, and you could still get one of these guys, I think. That's just kind of my line of thinking with this.
Yeah, no, I do completely agree, and I do have a trade cooked up of a potential trade that New England could explore if they don't fall in love with one of these QB prospects. But Fashanu, funny thing about him, Harrison, is you remember this. If he came out of the draft last season, he was slotted in to be a top 10 pick, I believe, in the number 1 offensive tackle in last year's draft class, ended up shocking the world coming back to Penn State, and really didn't improve his stock. Obviously still going to go in the top 10, top 14 in all likelihood, but he didn't really cement himself as that top guy in his final year as a Nittany Lion.
Yeah, I don't think he got worse. I just think Alt elevated, right? Which is why you're seeing him go higher in mocks. The thing about Olu is his athleticism is so intriguing. If he can clean up some of the technique stuff, he's going to be one of these combine warrior guys, I think, where his testing's going to be awesome. You're going to see him run a sub-5 flat 40 probably at that size, whereas Alt probably won't be sub-5 flat. So I still really like Olu. You need to have a good offensive line coach, I would say, and have someone who can clean up the technique a little bit. So, we'll see if the Patriots do go tackle, if they like Alt him or someone else better. But I think it's Alt's probably a safer pick. Fashanu's probably gives you 10 to 15% higher upside. So it'll be curious to see how teams evaluate that position. We'll talk more about this, and like Rolly said, he's got a trade cooked up if the Patriots do want to move down and take a tackle. But we do got to tell you about Prize Picks, the big game. Super Bowl 58 is almost here, and it's time to make some money, man. I'm fired up about Super Bowl 58. Even if you don't have a dog in the fight, the amount of opportunities with daily fantasy led by Prize Picks, the best in the business, prizepicks.com/CLNS, code CLNS, to get a deposit match up to $100 when you sign up, are just endless. They're giving you a deal of Patrick Mahomes half a passing yard. You obviously take the more there, and then you add as many players up to 6 that you're comfortable with, and if you hit on all of them, you can cash out. I like Isaiah Pacheco to find the end zone. He's been a touchdown machine this year. Deebo Samuel, I got to think the Chiefs are going to try and limit his yak and stuff like that, which is why I think Christian McCaffrey, the more on the receiving yards. I think Brock Purdy is going to lean on him in this game. So 4 to win, or 10 to win 100 on this 4-player entry here. PrizePicks.com/CLNS. Again, the code CLNS gets you a deposit match up to $100. Make some money during the Super Bowl on Super Bowl Sunday. PrizePicks.com/CLNS. Code CLNS. Link is in the comments and description right now. Okay, Taliese Fuaga listen, this guy's emerging, Rolly. I've seen mocks having him go top 10 or 12. He's a behemoth as well. Now, he's kind of the opposite of what we were just talking about with Olu, Rolly. He's not as athletic, but he mauls in the run game. Like, this guy will just absolutely put people on their ass in run schemes. So, again, it's all about fit with these tackles. I think they all have a little bit of something different. I think Alt's probably the most balanced guy right now. I think Olu's pass blocking ability and athleticism, where you can get him on the move and pull him, is intriguing. And then you got Fuaga, who's more of this bruiser type, who, if you want to be a team that runs the football a lot, maybe he's the best option.
Yeah, I mean, he's been someone that's rising, and he's in a lot of these mock drafts, at least as of now, going 10 to the New York Jets. Like, he's really going in that range. So that's more of an option if New England decided to, trade down outside the top 10, which would be quite the aggressive move. Now you would probably get a lot of draft capital by whoever wanted to trade up. Maybe it's a Vikings at 11 trying to get Jaden Daniels or Drake May.
Raiders
Maybe it's the Raiders at 13 where you get a boatload of picks, their first, their second, and their first next year
Denver
to do
at 12
that,
maybe.
which is an intriguing idea. But we'll talk more in depth about what New England should do here in just a second. But after looking at these top 3 offensive tackles, pick one for us.
Yeah, let us know. JA for Joe Alt, OF for Fashanu, or TF for Fuaga. I'd probably order it like that. I think Alt's the safe pick, and if you do go tackle, if you're New England, you can't afford to miss, so I think you would want to take Joe Alt here. Fashanu's got massive upside. That's been well documented, and then Fuaga's been the kind of the trendy riser as of late, so give us your vote on initials in the comments. Now, again, Rolly, I think we're on the same page here. If you love these tackles, then just trade down, because yeah, if you trade down, maybe one of them goes, but you're still going to have options there. Maybe the Giants at 6 want to trade up and draft a quarterback. You could go to 6 and draft Joe Alt there. You mentioned those 2 teams outside of the top 10 if you want to drop that far, but teams are going to want that third selection, because I think the gap has only widened, Rolly, between the first batch of quarterbacks and the second batch, because Michael Penix and Bo Nix didn't exactly light it up at the Senior Bowl this week. Now, come draft time, teams always get desperate at quarterback. We get that. But having that third pick, I think, got a little bit more valuable, because if it goes QB, picks 1 and 2, and New England's kind of on the fence, well, they could shop that pick and kind of just wait for the biggest bidder there.
Yeah, we originally wanted the number 2 pick to have your choice of either Drake May or Jaden Daniels, be assuming Caleb Williams went number 1, but having the number 3rd pick could be even more valuable than having number 2, because maybe you don't get your choice of your quarterback if you really prefer Drake over Jaden or vice versa, but knowing that there is that crazy gap between the top 3 quarterbacks and the next quarterback, well, that could actually be a benefit if a team did want to trade up, because you hold the cards of the last true elite quarterback.
Yep.
And if you personally don't fall in love with one of them, you can shop them off to someone who really needs a quarterback and would be willing to spend. I mentioned some of the teams about the Vikings, the Raiders, outside the top 10. This is a trade idea that I really do think could be possible if Eliot Wolf, Matt Groh, and Gerard Mayo don't love either May or Daniels, and they want to trade back. And it's the Falcons moving from 8 to 3, and you get their first-round pick in the next year's draft. I feel like that's pretty fair value.
I think you might get more here.
I mean, yeah, maybe I was on the conservative side. I've just seen this trade idea float around quite a bit on Patriots Twitter, where you move back 5 spots, and then you pick up a first next year, and you're still able to draft one of the 2 offensive tackles, and you might be even able to draft Brock Bowers if you really fell in love with him. It's the question is, would you do it, right? Would you rather have an extra first-round pick next year and take one of those other blue-chip guys, or would you rather take a quarterback?
Yeah.
It is really one of those hypotheticals that it's a dealer's choice almost.
Well, this is where you have to lean on your scouting. If you feel comfortable about the top 3 quarterbacks, then you just take whoever's left. That's how I view that. But say the Patriots love Caleb Williams but can't get him, and love one of Daniels or May, and the guy they love goes to, well, then that changes things. Then I think your worst outcome there is you draft Marvin. Your maybe ideal outcome is you trade back and get a couple extra picks. You draft a tackle if that's an area you're leaning. You mentioned Atlanta at 8. Odunze or Neighbors is possibly still there at 8. Maybe you go that route depending on how the first 6 or 7 picks go. So, yeah, this is a scouting question. Like, how do they feel about the top 3 quarterbacks? Maybe New England's scouting is they really like 2 of them, but the third one they don't love. So, you and I, having taken a look in with our just evaluations, which we're not professional scouts. I think you and I know football well, but the bottom line is we're not making that choice. I would take whatever quarterback is there. I think that's the conclusion I've come to. I just think you need it so badly. We watch how many games did they lose this year, Rolly? Because they just had inadequate quarterback play.
At least 4.
If they had the 18th best quarterback in the NFL this year, they might have flirted with wild card contention.
Just think about it. There was a 3-game stretch where if you scored 11 points, you would have won 3 games.
I mean, rookie year Mac Jones probably had you going 8-9 this year.
I'm not kidding. You would have been flirting with the postseason this year if you were able to average 20 points a game rather than 13.9, which is why I do think quarterback at 3 is the right play. Now, the only way you can sell me on a trade back and draft an OT or Brock Bowers, whatever you want. Even then, though, if you don't love one of these quarterbacks, I'd still just take Marvin Harrison Jr. at 3. Yeah. You have to convince me and convince a lot of fans that whatever quarterback fell to 3, you despised him. And I tell you what, if you do despise him and he turns out to be good, oh man, you are in a world of hurt in the future, because this is why this is a crazy offseason that does put me in a little bit of skepticism when it comes to who's making the decisions. I just think there needs to be a clear cut, I'm making the decision, so we know if it doesn't work out who to blame, but not even for that fact, but just so everyone in the entire building knows who's the guy that we're reporting to.
Well, now, and look, maybe internally that's the case. Maybe they've had these talks, hey, Eliot's in charge, we're not doing a GM title. Okay, fine. They don't have to tell us. I hope that's the case, though, because I don't like this, well, we don't really have a top of the food pyramid. We don't need a GM and title. Why move on from Belichick, then, is almost my question. To me, and that's what I think skeptical is a fair word to use, because first-time head coach, first-time offensive play caller, first-time defensive coordinator, no GM and title. That's pretty questionable if you ask me, when you have this pivotal offseason of a bunch of cap space and the opportunity to draft a quarterback. So we'll see how it plays out. I would take a quarterback at 3, but if they don't, it's going to be very, very interesting, which is why you got to subscribe. We're going to cover every rumor, every angle that is out there when it comes to the New England Patriots. I'm Harrison Graham. Shout out to Rolly. We'll see you guys tomorrow with another video.